What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Let the Madness Begin, LTMB Live. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Thank you, everybody, for being here with us tonight. We have a pretty good show for you. A lot of things to talk about today. We're going to give it a minute for some people to get in here. We started a few minutes late. Let's bring Facebook in as well. Let's see here. All right, let's move that. What's going on, Facebook? How's everybody doing out there? This is LTMB Live. All right. What's going on, Warren, Gene? Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Like we said, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Lots going on. First story we're going to talk about is of course you know, the porn star with Trump. Psych.
I was like, man, you better stop playing.
No, I mean,
better stop playing.
I mean, I'm sure it's going to get a lot more media attention. She's suing him because she wants to void that non-disclosure agreement.
Oh, violation of it.
Yeah.
But apparently, his dumbass didn't sign it.
Yeah, like I think his lawyer. Well, she's saying that his lawyer signed it.
Yeah.
So she wants to void it so that she can talk about what happened.
She just want to make some money.
Yeah. Yo, I heard that she has some pictures of this, you know, that proves the intimate relationship, even though he's denying it or whatever. Look, I don't really care.
I don't want to see none of that.
Yeah, I don't want to see it either.
I don't want to see none of that.
Nah, I don't want to see it.
All I think is, you know, it's almost like one of those things that won't prove anything. It won't prove anything that we don't already know.
Yeah, I know.
It'll be a big distraction. Man.
I've seen articles saying that, man. Even I think on Morning Joe they were talking about it, how this could be something that really derails his presidency or something like that. I don't quite know how. They were saying how, you know, the women that have come out against him and said that he acted inappropriate towards them sexually, that didn't go anywhere because they can't prove it. You know, they can't prove it.
We already know who he is and what he said. And
also, the Access Hollywood tape, he got off of that because
exactly. So much. That's why I say, what's the point? I think it'd just be like more distraction. It's not like we don't already know about this Joker.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't see how it'd be different.
It would just prove a point that has already been
proven, like
bludgeoned into the damn ground.
Exactly, man. many times over again. It's not a story I'm following. It's just a story that keeps, you know, hitting us in the face because I guess there continues to be more of it. So I don't predict that we're gonna talk about it in depth, you know, for any reason unless something changes. So whatever. I did want to give a shout out to the people that had contributed to the program the last program. We forgot to mention you because it happened earlier in the program, and by the end we had totally forgot about it. But I believe it was Angie that had contributed to us, and somebody else, I can't remember though. But everybody that does contribute to the program, we appreciate it immensely. It's the lifeblood, so like I said, we appreciate everything that you do for us. With that, let's get to it, right?
Man, let's start it off, bro.
All right. So today is International Women's Day. That's right. And the theme is the time is now. Rural and urban activists transforming women's lives. So this is something that is a global event. You know, there's a protest, there's marches, there's celebrations, there's you know, calls to action all throughout the globe, and no doubt the name of the theme, you know, the time is now, you know, it sounds appropriate, especially coming off of the heels of last year
with the Me Too.
Yeah, with the Me Too movement, and with all these men in, you know, powerful positions, some position of authority being outed as sexual predators, you know, being involved in sexual misconduct, rape, inappropriate touching, whatever.
But you know, I think like it's clearly bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's clearly representative of like the continued power structure that's dominated by men.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? And them men abusing their power. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, of course, like, you know how, you know, some men claim that they're feminists. I'll never claim that I'm a feminist, even though the word, I mean, like the actual definition doesn't mean you have to be a woman to be a feminist. But it just seems like a man that claims that he is a feminist, it just seems like he's doing too much. You know?
Well, you think he's extra?
It just feels like you're doing too much.
Okay, so do you think it should be more about him, like being like I don't know, like a co-activist?
Yeah, like I'm not, see, because me as a man, I don't know what it
showing solidarity.
Yeah, like I'm showing support. Of course, I'm supportive of the struggle and all of that. But if somebody else wants to refer to me as a feminist, cool. But to self-identify as that, again, like I said, it's just it's a little bit too much for me, at least. Just for me. But again, as a man, of course, I don't understand, you know, what it is to be a woman, but I believe we can, or at least me, I can identify with, you know, some of the struggles, because I think we all go through them, you know, especially as a black man too. I can, you know, share, you know, what I feel in life, but, you know, as it concerns equality, true representation, justice.
I agree with Gene. He pretty much said feminist is just to be a humanist, really. And so, yeah, I do think sometimes people do focus on the label too much and not what it's supposed to represent. And it is kind of it's like you can say it's kind of a humanist type of thinking too. Oh,
like I said, the exact definition I got no problem with. It's just the terminology. It just, you know, it just seems like a man may be doing too much to self-identify. At least that's me. I agree with the plight. I may be wrong. Like, you want to be a feminist? I mean, you want to self-identify? That's cool. I won't.
But see, that's the thing. To me, it never mattered too much about the label.
The word.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I mean.
That's how I've always been. It never mattered too much about the label. And since it doesn't matter to me, I ain't gonna you know, throw shade at somebody. Yeah, I'm not gonna co-opt it, but I'm not gonna throw shade if somebody wants to put that, you know.
No, there's no shade.
Put that mantle on themselves.
I'm just saying, me
you know
personally.
What I'm saying? Like, either way it is. Since I say I don't really care about the label, I'm not gonna care in either direction.
Right.
I'm not gonna care to kind of always like explain my virtue in regard to that subject, nor am I gonna like throw shade at somebody if they do want to walk around with that on their sleeve either.
You know, I think what this comes from is that, you know how you see on social media, you see people that may be like from an outside group, you know, that's not particularly in the group that's being referenced or whatever, but then they seem like they're doing way too much for the purpose, you know, to a point to where it seems like it's not genuine. You know what I'm talking about? Like when if there's some kind of issue, and like if we want to talk about if we want to talk about women's struggles, and then you see a man making an argument that it seems to be like you're going way further than what you need to be, like, and women aren't even offended by this particular subject. So maybe you are.
You say there's like maybe some like they're overcompensating for something.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they're doing too much. That's the feeling that I get with some of them. But whatever, you know.
It makes sense though. Yeah. I mean, it would make sense that they may feel that they have to do more because they're a man. They have to like prove that they are worthy. I'm just saying, it makes sense. But I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like kind of like it's not the exact same thing, but it's the same kind of has the same consequence. Like sometimes female cops because it's industry, it's an occupation dominated by males.
It is.
Sometimes you see females go over and above. Why is that?
True.
Because it's dominated by males, and they may feel they have something to prove. Obviously, it's not completely analogous, but it has kind of that same element to it. So maybe these men feel as if they have something to prove. I don't know.
Whatever. Anyways, though, but again, you know, of course, we always talk about equality and justice, and living in this time, we do want to get to a place like that. So, you know, being supportive of women and relaying the message that, of course, women can be anything that they want to be. They can do anything that men can do. And right now, they occupy spaces that historically have been dominated by males. You know, in police forces, the military, leaderships, you know, leadership positions, government, and specifically about, you know, like these male positions, like these male industries, like law enforcement and like the military. I haven't noticed anybody saying anything that, you know, police forces across the country or even the world and militaries are being weakened because females are involved now.
I've seen that. I mean,
I'm talking about like evidence, though.
I'm sorry.
No. Yeah,
you've heard people say it, but you haven't seen evidence.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
True that,
like
true
the
that.
hard evidence. There's no evidence that these actual entities have been weakened because women are involved now. So
women have always been involved. Maybe not, obviously not in the same capacity, like as far as like being on the front lines. Like, and obviously war has changed over the past, I mean, 100, 200 years. Definitely war has changed.
No doubt.
So it's not the same anymore.
I just want to get to a place where this this stereotype of weakness assigned to women is over and done with, because like when you're talking about a female and male relationship, oftentimes in many cases the men feel like they need to protect the woman, and even the woman in many cases feel like they want that man to protect them as well. And I don't have any problem with that. There's no problem with that at all. The problem is that it doesn't stay there. The problem is that men then translate that feeling of, you know, a woman being weaker to other places, like when they're in these police roles.
So it sounds like it's
military
like benevolent. It sounds benevolent.
It sounds like
it's benevolent misogyny.
Yes.
So it sounds benevolent, like I'm here to protect you.
Right.
When really, kind of like at the end of the stick.
Right.
It kind of shows a men's characterization of a weak individual.
That's what I'm talking about. See, if it just stayed in the relationship, you know, like just the interrelationship, you know, the interpersonal relationships of, you know, just whatever inside a man that feels like, you know, I really feel like I want to protect this woman, and, you know, because in most cases they are physically more dominant, right? So that's fine, but like I said, it doesn't stay there. So
it kind of filters into everything. Okay, so
it filters into people, like men saying that they shouldn't occupy leadership positions.
How do we correct that though? Because it's not. Because to me, it's like you did mention that there are a lot of women who kind of have that same idea too. So it's one of those things where women have internalized it too. So how do we correct that? How do we fix that? How do we repair that? Especially if both genders have kind of internalized that and kind of projected that gender role onto each other.
I think,
and still do. I
think with the true representation too, because, you know, we talked about a few times too with black people. You know, we've talked about how it's important to see black people in different roles in society.
Imagery has a way of kind of
getting into the consciousness.
People internalize all that stuff when they kind of like use it in regard to how they see themselves. Right.
If women, you know, if this was years and years back, or if this was just a time where women, all they did was stay at home and cook and took care of the children, if that's all they did, like how many women out there would feel like they actually had a shot at being something more than that?
So it's about you know, I guess role models and the images that people view shaping their conscious. Okay.
And this is about being truthful too, because like these same like governmental roles, you know, soldiers, police officers, there are women that are able to occupy those spaces. There are also women that should not occupy those spaces. Now, this is no different than the case with men. There are many men that should not be police officers or soldiers or be involved in government. So it's not, I mean, there's no difference between the man and the woman. It's just this stereotype that just women are weaker and they won't be able to handle the job, which is, it's just stupid at this point. This is 2018. You got to be more intelligent than that. Women are, women are able to handle themselves. I remember, now you remember back in the day, because I used to be a lot lighter. I used to be a whole lot lighter than I am now. Okay, so I came up and I was very skinny all throughout high school into my young adult days. I remember working at a job, and we had a security training, like a security meeting, talking about be mindful of this and watch out for this, because it was we were in the time where daylight saving time was over. So you would leave the job, it'd be dark. So it was like, just be aware, watch out behind you, this and that. And I know my mom's watching, she's probably going to get a kick out of this because she always laughs, right? So I think I was like the only man in the whole, like in this department. And one woman in the department, she said it was referencing what we do when we walk to our cars and it's dark, and like what happens if something arises, somebody's trying to get us or something like that. And this woman says, well, what about Will? What's he gonna do? I was like, word? You just gonna try to embarrass me? Just like that,
just put you on blast.
Yeah,
man. Like called you out, Will.
Yeah, because I was light. Like, so I couldn't handle myself. So I felt some type of way about that. I don't remember her name, but still. But anyway, that's just pointing out that, of course, there are men all throughout society that can't hold these positions as well, just like some women can't. But there are some women that are trained, that have them, muscle capability, whatever. They can do every single thing that we can. So again, we just have to keep combating that notion that they're lesser than.
I think it's kind of just based on one premise alone, because women are on average physically weaker. That's
in many cases.
In many cases, on average.
Yes.
I think that's kind of what it's all based on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And for some reason, that translates into
be weaker at everything else.
Yeah.
Like not being capable of everything else.
Like, you can't hold a leadership position because you're physically weaker.
Physically weaker. And
that's what it boils down to.
But like leadership was always associated with being a warrior, being a soldier. That's why. And you know what I'm saying, for the most part, men were always, the soldiers. So they always associated leadership with, being strong, because those are the roles that men had. You know what I'm saying? Right. Those are the roles that created empires. Like what?
See, I'm laughing at Jose too. They said Will needed an escort to his car. Yo, I was very upset. I was like, I cannot believe this woman just said that about me. Really? I can handle myself, all right? I'll be all right. I was much stronger than what my body type looked like, man. But anyway, all right, so we're gonna go on. So on Tuesday night there was the Texas primaries. And so we have a few things to talk about there. I know we have been taking questions about, when we're going to get to Texas and this and that. But now, we're definitely going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in two phases, the Senate race and the congressional races too. There's two things to highlight there. So with Laura Moser, Laura Moser is a Democrat running for Congress in Texas's 7th district. And she, because of the Texas primary on Tuesday, she made it to the May 22nd runoff. So she secured about 24% of the vote. And her challenger, Democrat Lizzie Panell Fletcher, she garnered about 29% of the vote.
I don't think she's endorsed by Our Revolution or Justice Democrats. She's like
Fletcher.
Yeah, she's just like a run-of-the-mill Democrat.
Yeah, she's
I think that district is like near Houston or something.
It is. Laura Moser, she is a progressive. She believes in things like paid family leave, single payer, marriage equality, Also, which was a interesting thing about her, or that I read about her, she supports a pay-as-you-go policy for military spending. Which is
so it's like
they don't hear about.
Well, you know, I don't hear about that.
You don't hear about that at all
because it's like she's against these lump sums of money given because they're that
just give it to them, let them do whatever they do
because it kind of lays the groundwork for more waste.
Oh, you know that.
But like, how what you say her percentage was?
24%. She got
like how did she become like? How did her name get out there? How did she become so popular?
So one, I don't think she of course is known in that area in Texas, but nationally her profile did not raise, and no doubt this helped her in that area as well. People that did not know her in that area, her national profile was raised because of the Democratic Party. So we talked about on another show how the DCC put on their website some statement from her in which they claim she was saying negative things about Texas as a state, and actually the quote went something like she would rather have a tooth taken out without anesthesia than live in Paris, Texas, and I believe that's where her grandparents live, or that's where her grandparents are from. Now, that's not where she's from. She's from the Houston area.
So she's like a city person.
She likes big cities. So what she was actually saying was that she prefers not to live in the rural area. She prefers to live in, urban,
that's actually
populous area.
That's actually a common sentiment among people who live in the city.
Yes.
And vice versa, actually.
Yes. Like, when I came here from New York,
you were like, what's wrong with this place?
well, forget that, but this is the city here, right? Now, my family lives in the country.
Oh, yeah. Both our families live in the country, the boondocks.
When I got here, I was very thankful that I was here and not in the country.
Because it's harder to get around.
Exactly, man. And, like you said, when you come from a populous area, most times you don't want to go to an area that just is filled with trees. So I understand what she's talking about wholeheartedly. So anyway, but they try to smear her with that, and we talked about how the Democratic Party, they seem to say that they don't want infighting, like don't attack other Democrats, and we saw that in 2016 when David Brock
told Bernie to tone down
the rhetoric because you're hurting Hillary Clinton, and by the time she gets to the general election, she's going to be a significantly weaker candidate, damaged this goods. And that, right? But here you go, you have a situation where the establishment is attacking a progressive. So it's okay for them, but not for a progressive to attack the establishment.
But technically, if you aren't a part of the establishment, you're not one of them. So they may view it as they're not kind of promoting infighting at all.
But then
because they see them as outsiders that are
until you need them, until they need the outsiders.
That's how they always.
Because once Hillary secured the nomination, it was like, hey, let's be family. Well, we're family.
It's weird though. Like, remember during the primary, she was just like, I don't even need Bernie's voters.
Exactly. And then it was a different story.
She was begging for them.
Exactly.
I couldn't get all of them. She got a lot of them, but
she got a lot of them. But anyway, but that's how her national profile was raised. I think it was because of the Democratic Party blasting her, because there were many articles that were highlighting this race because of that. So it didn't work. So now there's going to be a May 22nd runoff, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully Laura Moser can defeat Fletcher, and then she will go up against the incumbent, who is John Culberson, the Republican incumbent, and he has been there since 2000.
And I think she polled pretty well amongst Republicans too.
Okay.
Right.
So it is. I mean, Culberson is a guy that he's anti-abortion, he's anti-Planned Parenthood. He believed in that whole nonsense about selling baby parts. He trafficked in that nonsense. He's also anti-intelligence because he doesn't believe in climate change. I made that up. He's anti-marriage equality, and he is a Trumper. He believes in the Muslim ban, and he believes in, I think, the wall and all of that.
The anti-intelligence covers all of that.
You can like wrap all of that.
That's pretty much, yeah.
But what's an interesting piece of information about this district is that it hasn't elected a Democrat since 1967. That's a long time. That's a long 1967, and I believe that was a period in which the congressional districts didn't have to be equal in the state. So, it like I said, it's been a long time since a Democrat has seen a win in that 7th district, but hopefully this is that time,
Yeah, I was reading somewhere where apparently the percentage of Democrats that participated in early voting went up. Like significantly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
During these primaries.
Right.
So in some cases, went up. Like I guess the voting turnout was more than like presidential election years.
Yeah, I think
some districts were like 102%.
It was definitely more than 2010 and 2014.
Yeah, they cite they did cite 2010 and 2014.
Right. So yeah, this particular district is a district that Hillary Clinton won in the 2016 presidential election. So that's why Democrats are feeling like this is a prime opportunity to take control of this district. So again, we hope that is the case, not just because we want a Democrat, just any old Democrat in that office. It would be better that Laura Moser
or any other
wins that election.
Any other candidate that is supported by our revolution. Yeah, there's like 3 of them,
which is not Lizzie Fletcher.
No, yeah, I think there's like 3. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but it's only down to 2 of them now.
Yeah,
in the runoff.
Yeah.
So it's Moser or Fletcher, and again, there's a few months before the runoff till we find out. Who's gonna go up against Culberson in November. If you haven't checked out our website, do so. I think it's moserforcongress.com. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's right. But yeah, if you know anybody that lives in that area, lives in that district, be sure that they're involved and that they go out and vote in the runoff.
Since we're talking about Texas.
Yeah. Since we're talking about Texas. Also on primary night on Tuesday, of course, the incumbent senator, Ted Cruz, secured his place in the election in November. But on the Democratic side, Robert Beto O'Rourke, he won about 62% of the vote. So as long as you won at least 50% of the vote, then you don't have to go to a runoff. So he is going to be the one facing Ted Cruz in November. So O'Rourke is a guy that he's actually been outraising Cruz by a pretty significant margin in recent weeks. So Cruz has even sounded a little jumpy.
Oh no,
he's scared about the prospects in November.
He's scared. He's damn scared.
Yeah. Now he says that he doesn't expect that a Democrat is going. He doesn't expect Texas to turn blue, but like you said, if you hear what if you hear him in interviews, he sounds like he is feeling some pressure. So on Twitter on Tuesday night, I think it was a little while after the primary took place, he put out a post on Twitter. Okay, and we're gonna show this to you.
It's funny. I think somebody just asked about it in the chat section.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Brace yourself. And Facebook, you're not gonna be able to see this. We only got it on YouTube.
You got to go to YouTube if you want to see this.
You might be able to hear it though, because we do have it up pretty loud. But this was the ad that he put on Twitter. At least part of it, not the whole thing, but there was a part of it.
I remember reading stories. Liberal Robert wanted to fit in, so he changed his name to Beto and hit it with a grin. Beto wants those open borders and wants to take our guns. Not a chance on earth he'll give get a vote from millions of Texans. If you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
What? Yo, that was really, really, really corny.
It was lame.
It was
corny. It was dead right awful. It was. If you didn't hear, or if you couldn't make out all the words, or maybe you were too busy, choking from some vomit or something like that, you couldn't stomach to hear it. Let's read the words to you. I believe the beginning part may have been a little bit, difficult to understand.
Make out, yeah.
So it begins, and this is just part of it. This is not the whole ad. This is about 30 seconds of it. He says, "I remember reading stories."
Nah, dog. You gotta sing that, son.
Oh, hell no. Sing it. Here you go.
I remember reading stories. Nah,
so he says, I remember reading stories liberal Robert wanted to fit in. So he changed his name to Beto and hit it with a grin. Beto wants those open borders and he wants to take our guns. Not a chance on earth he'll get a vote from millions of Texans. If you're
Texans. See, that's why you gotta see it, because that's the. So I'm saying you gotta get to you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Then he said, if you're gonna run in Texas, you can't be a liberal man. So
go ahead.
You got something?
Well, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, good.
What's Ted's actual born name? Ted
Yeah.
Cruz.
So that's the interesting part of this. So Ted Cruz's birth name is Raphael. Is it not Raphael? Raphael Edward Cruz. That's his born name. Okay. Now the reason he's trying to pick on O'Rourke is because of the Beto. Okay. So he's trying to say that he changed his name because of political expediency, because he wanted to sound more ethnic. He wanted to sound more Hispanic. Now Beto, because that's what that is his nickname. That's what he is. He calls himself. Now he doesn't run away from his actual name. Mm-hmm. He does go by Robert Beto O'Rourke, and he actually posted a picture of himself from when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. It was a family picture, and he's wearing a sweater, and it's bearing his his nickname Beto. So this is something that he has. This is a nickname that he has had since a very early age, and it's understandable because he was brought up in El Paso, Texas, which is has a very large Hispanic population. So who cares? Especially when Ted is not his name. That's his nickname. And you can argue that he just wanted to sound more white, right?
I was about to say, it just sounds like he's projecting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he thinks O'Rourke is doing that because that's what he did. Because again, he's from Canada.
That's where he was born, in Canada.
Born in Canada. Yeah. So he's coming down to Texas and he's running as a Republican and a conservative.
That's right.
So what does he do? He wants to kind of adopt the simplest, probably more readily acceptable name. That's right. Ted. This is simple. Like Ted. Like Ted from next door. You
Not Raphael.
Not Raphael.
Not Raphael.
So he has to kind of change his name so he could fit in that conservative Republican part. And he's just accusing O'Rourke of doing something that he's probably doing. And he just thinks that O'Rourke is doing it because he is. That's all.
And he was actually on CNN fielding a question about this. So CNN invited him on, and he spoke with Jake Tapper about this. So this is a clip of that.
You go after Beto for his name. Beto is obviously a nickname. Why? One, you didn't like that dirty pool when you were running for president, and the president called you Lion Ted. You didn't like that kind of tactic. And, look, your name is Raphael. You go by Ted. Your middle name is Edward. That's an anglicized version of it. He went the other way and has a more ethnic version of his name. Why go after it? You're both doing the same thing.
Well, listen, you're absolutely right. My name is Rafael Edward Cruz. I am the son of my father, Rafael Cruz, an immigrant from Cuba who came to Texas with nothing and had $100 in his underwear, couldn't speak English, washed dishes, making 50 cents an hour. And my dad's journey of an immigrant coming to Texas seeking freedom, that's the American story. That's who we are. You know, in terms of the jingle, some of it is just have a sense of humor. I mean, you actually miss the title of the song, which is, if you're going to run in Texas, you can't run as a liberal man.
Of course, he never answered the question. Of course.
But see, when you represent nothing of substance, those are the type of ads you make. All he said something was about taking your guns and open borders.
And then he went into his background. Yeah, you know, I was the son of an immigrant and blah, blah, blah. No, the question is, why are you attacking O'Rourke when you're doing the exact same thing? You're using a name that's not yours. You're using a nickname. Why are you attacking him? And he's like, yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to be funny. I'm like, really? If somebody, I'm like, you spend money on a political ad. You spend money on a political ad,
a corny
and
one
claim
that
somebody's trying to, like, your opponent, or you know, is trying to take guns away and has open borders.
Right.
That's not a joke. That's not funny.
It's not. It's not. You know,
that's what bigots do, dog. That's exactly what bigots do. They put stuff out there and say, oh, we were just being funny. I'm like, it's a political ad.
I know. It was just humorous, but you missed the point. You know, it was that you can't be a liberal man if you're gonna run in Texas. I saw a post on Facebook probably just a couple days ago, and it was actually who has a more punchable face. I know Cruz was on that list. Ben Shapiro was on that list.
Oh yeah.
And there were some others too.
Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah, Tucker Carlson. Yeah,
he's on the list.
I'm not sure if he is in there. I thought you had seen it. Yeah.
No, I didn't see the list.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not sure if he was. I know those two were, and some others. And I made a comment. I said Ted Cruz by a landslide. By a landslide.
By a landslide.
Because it's not about, you know, and if I actually saw him, would I punch him? Absolutely not. That's stupid. I'm not gonna.
Oh, you want Richard Spencer?
Nah, I'm not gonna punch nobody. Now forget that. I don't care. I mean, like he is a bigot, but I'm not gonna punch him. No, I can fight him with my intelligence, you know. But I'm not gonna punch him. But it's not about his features. It's not about, you know, his face. Really, it's not really about his mouth or nose. I mean, it's not about anything. It's about his mannerism. The expressions that he makes.
But that is about his mouth and his nose.
Well, not really.
Because the way it's situated and the way he's like, well, he's smarmy, kind of like, you're looking like. But
I think he makes himself look like that.
Okay, then it has something to do with his face. Then
I think if Ted Cruz looked like anything else, I would still pick Ted Cruz.
Still Eddie Munster. I'm like a more annoying version of Eddie Munster.
He's just a very unlikable guy, man. Very unlikable, man.
I think O'Rourke. I read something because O'Rourke responded to the ad, and I thought the person who was interviewing him said, like, asked O'Rourke if he was going to make a he didn't say clapback, but
yeah, it was Allison Camerota on CNN.
Asked him if he was going to respond with his song of his own, and you know what? I respected his response because he wasn't playing that game because apparently
he didn't get baited into it.
He didn't get baited into it. Apparently he was like in a punk rock band or something a while ago. Yeah. So that's why she asked him, you know, was there going to be a response in doing a song in the same way? And he was like, no.
He actually
He actually, my bad. He actually like went into something else. He didn't answer the question.
Completely ignored it. He completely ignored it and went into like some real issues about what Texans actually want to hear about. He didn't have no time for that nonsense. So that, yeah, exactly. That's what I respect. But this is no surprise coming from Ted Cruz. If you all remember, just a few years ago, he had another ad that he put out there. This is what that looked like.
We cook bacon a little differently than most folks. There's grease coming down. All right. Machine gun bacon.
Yeah, y'all remember that. If you're on Facebook, you're not saying what YouTube is saying. That was that kind of machine gun bacon little parlor trick Ted Cruz did.
He looks, like I said, man, it's a punchable face, man. It's a very punchable face.
But, you know, like I said, we're both very, we're glad that O'Rourke responded in the way he did.
Yeah,
because
by not responding really to that crap,
he didn't want to, like, make this into, like, some sort of celebrity rap battle.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's Ted Cruz for you, man.
That's Ted Cruz,
Maybe
man.
if he loses coming up in November, maybe Canada will take his ass back.
I doubt it, man. I doubt it. But yeah, so that matchup is set, and so they'll it'll be a head-to-head battle. We'll see who wins November for the election. I don't know. His work is cut out. O'Rourke, his work is cut out for him because, of course, this is still Texas. So I don't know. What you think? You think he has a chance?
I mean, I think he has a chance, seeing as he was able to outraise Cruz.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Cruz is probably going to ramp up some of those ads and hopefully appeal to the fears of a lot of Texans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Tap into that. You know.
Again, I know Democrats are feeling encouraged because of Hillary's, her vote count in 2016.
Didn't she win in that district?
Well, I'm talking about the Senate race.
The Senate race. Yeah.
She won in the 7th district. Now, of course, the state went to Donald Trump. Because, like I said, it's Texas. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But best of luck to him, and hope he keeps raising the money that he needs to run his campaign, and maybe they can actually oust Ted Cruz, this warmy Ted Cruz, man. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna move on. In Facebook, we're gonna cut this off. We have the link in the description if you want to follow us over to YouTube to see the rest of the show. We have more to talk about with the tariffs that Donald Trump just signed. Also, Florida made some
moves on gun regulations.
Yeah, gun regulations. Also, we were talking about red flag laws. And there
bank
is
deregulation.
Of course, bank deregulation, and there is a spending package that's coming soon in the Senate as well. So we have a lot more to talk about. We hope that you come on and join us, and we'll see you over there. All right. So let's just go to so last week, was it last week or the week before that we talked about Hope Hicks leaving the White House? Was it last week?
That was last week.
Okay.
That wasn't last show. That was last week.
Okay. So Hope Hicks had just recently left the White House, and now as we talked about at the end of on Tuesday's show, Gary Cohn, who is President Trump's top economic advisor, he has resigned, and he will be leaving his role at the in the Trump administration. So this is like a recurring theme, man. Like, maybe we should signify this with some music or something, like na 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 na. Hey. No, you know what? Nah, forget.
Or maybe we could use like something like, I wouldn't say more modern, but something like that. I don't know, that would resonate with a certain demographic better. Like, what's that R. Kelly song? Like, remixed to Mitchell in that part where he's like, bounce, 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 bounce.
We could do that. We could do that. What about another one bites the dust? Don't. Another one goes, another one goes, another one bites the dust. Maybe we could do that because it seems like this is a running theme. It seems like people are going to be, it's like a mass exodus. It's like every couple weeks somebody's leaving the administration. Now Trump, he had something to say about this. Actually, he said that this was a nothing burger. So I'm gonna let Mike take care of this tweet right here.
Oh Lord. The new fake news narrative is that there is chaos in the White House. Wrong! Exclamation point. People will always come and go, and I want strong dialogue before making a final decision. I still have some people that I want to change, always seeking perfection. There is no chaos, only great energy! Exclamation point.
That's your Trump.
I could do better next time.
I think you did better on Tuesday.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, I think there was more Trump.
There was.
It was more Trump.
That's hard though.
Yeah, I
that's
know.
hard.
You gotta be in the mood for that too.
I'm not in the mood. I'm in the mood to do Trump, bro.
But anyway, yeah. So he's suggesting that, this is all going according to plan. Like there's a plan for this.
Oh, so when he said he was going to find the best people, that was like through, I guess, through trying a lot of people out.
Through trial and error.
Just trying a lot of different people, like plug in and plug out, plug in and plug out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was talking about.
3 communications directors. Now there's going to be a 4th. So, yeah, I guess it's not the third time that makes the charm.
Chief strategist. Gone.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Trump. He's seeking perfection. So really, all these people that are leaving, they're leaving because Trump wants them to leave, not because they want to get out of that whole chaotic energy and that whole chaotic situation that's in the White House in this administration. They don't want to leave. It's Trump that wants them to leave because he has figured out that they are not perfection. Okay. All right. But anyway, so Gary Cohn, he resigned, and it's reported that he did resign because of the difference that he had with President Trump on trade, specifically about these tariffs that Trump wants to impose. So Trump, this is going back a few days now. Trump signaled his intentions to impose some tariffs on steel imports and aluminum imports. The steel imports is going to be a 25% tax on that, and aluminum 10%. So those are pretty significant amounts. The Republicans, it seems like all the Republicans are like, hey, you need to back up. This is not a good idea. So is Gary Cohn. So that's why he resigned. Now, today, on Thursday, the White House said that Trump was going to sign the order, and he did. About 3:30, 4 o'clock p.m. today, he did sign the order. So it is official now. Now, even before he did sign off on these tariffs, the EU, the European Union, have said that they're going to fight back. So they said, I believe it was maybe at the beginning of this week or the end of last week. They said, well, they drew up a list of retaliatory tariffs, and it's going to target about $3.5 billion worth of American goods. Now, so far, I believe what they have listed only hits on steel. They haven't drawn up a list on the aluminum yet, but the list that they drew up is going to target such companies as Levi Strauss, their blue jeans, Harley Davidson motorcycles, bourbon whiskey. Is going to add items like shirts, cosmetics, recreational boats, orange juice, and corn. So all of this, like I said, is going to impact steel.
Well, first, I think it's interesting that Cohen has just such a big problem with it. Which, I mean, I have my problems too, but he was fine with giving billionaires a leg up. He was fine with kind of the tax bill.
Well, he's a former investment banker.
But
so
tariffs are just too far.
It's too much, man.
Tariffs go too far.
Because what this is, Trump called him a globalist.
That's right. Trump called him a globalist, even though Trump himself has businesses across the globe.
That's right. But yeah, he called him. I think it was today. Trump called Cohn a globalist, and said that he believes that he will return to the administration, but in a different role. He said not in the role of his top economic advisor because he's not strong enough on trade.
See, that's the thing. Like, now, are there going to be like aluminum manufacturing plants and steel manufacturing plants that are going to open up because of this? I think that's kind of the outlook. Because of the tariffs. It's going to cost too much to bring that product in. So then the manufacturing sector will kind of increase and see a boost. My problem is, if you're going to do a tariff, you do that first. You invest in those factories knowing that you're going to impose a tariff. Now you're imposing a tariff first, and there's going to be import industries that are affected. And you just can't just like overnight create a manufacturing sector overnight.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
So thousands of jobs are likely going to be affected.
Yeah, and the thing, like, and of course, he's tweeted this before, but he said like trade, and he said this like trade wars are good.
That's I don't. But well, he thinks that we're gonna win the trade war.
But see, that's the thing. Well, see, and that's the problem. And you say the European Union responded. It's like, did he not think that they would respond in kind? Did he not think that, the same thing would be done?
Like they would just lay down.
They would just lay down. I was like, yeah, it's like you're going to affect plenty of other American businesses or U.S. based businesses that ship products to other countries too.
Right.
Like he didn't think that was going to happen. Like,
I don't know. Again, I don't know, but the potential dangers of him implementing these tariffs, I mean, they loom large. We're talking about the beer industry because of Canon with the aluminum. Talking about there's Rust Belt states like Michigan and Ohio, Indiana that have automotive plants and they're metalworking. Even in Kentucky and South Carolina, here in South Carolina, we have automotive plants or auto manufacturing plants.
And we have like a bunch of ports down in Charleston.
Yeah, I think there's 4 ports.
Charleston's like one of the biggest ones.
And this is, I mean, well, that impacts about 187,000 jobs, I believe it is. So we don't know for sure what's going to be the impact. It looks like, I mean, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. But we can't be certain how bad it's going to be, or, if there, is Trump going to, no, he's not going to let off. He's not going to let off. I did see that Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona, he's intimated that he might propose some type of legislation that might block this tariff, this order for
so Jeff Flake is actually finally pushing back on Trump in regard to policy.
This might be the first time. This might be the first time that Jeff Flake might stand up and actually be him.
Put his poke his chest out and actually do something.
Yeah, instead of just talk.
You might have to give him a sucker. You might have to actually mail him a sucker.
Yeah, because he supported everything else that Trump has wanted to do. But this one, again, this is too far. Like you said with Cohn, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was okay with giving billionaires a leg up.
Exactly.
But now it's just tariffs are too far.
These are globalists. You can't interrupt the global trade market. So again, this is something that is going to go into days and weeks beyond now.
One thing that jumped out at me about his Trump's tariff speech, was he said something about like the economic situation globally being unfair to the United States. And that is partial in part why our deficits are so bad.
Yeah, because he's talking about trade deficits and
you think he's talking about trade deficits?
I don't know.
You think he's talking about trade deficits?
I don't know, man.
I don't want to go too much into it, but you think that's what he's talking about, trade deficits?
He has sometimes talked about like the trade deficits with us in Mexico and us in China.
But he has also
yes. Go ahead, yeah.
he has also linked I guess business with like he's linked commercial success with United States debt as well.
I don't know. He says that he's doing this to protect American businesses, American workers, but at the same time, doing that, he might be hurting them. Yeah, but he seems to be he seems to be very confident that America is going to come away with come away victorious in this trade war. It seems like a risky proposal. We'll see what happens. Okay. On Wednesday, the Florida House approved a series of gun regulations that the Senate passed days earlier. Now, this is in response to what happened a few weeks ago in Parkland, Florida, with the school shooting where 17 people were killed. Rick Scott, some days after that, suggested that there was going to be something done by the Florida legislature, including banning bump stocks and raising the minimum age to buy a weapon, and I believe implementing the 3-day waiting period. So this is what the House bill, or actually, like I said, the Senate already voted for it, and the House approved it as well. So this is what it includes, the final bill. It's going to raise the age to purchase a firearm to 21. It's going to require a 3-day waiting period for firearm purchases. Of course, there's going to be some exceptions. It's going to ban the sale or possession of bump fire stocks. So that's very important. I know before we talked about here in South Carolina, I believe actually it was Columbia, the city, banned the possession of bump stocks.
And we were like, okay, if you're going to ban the possession, you have to ban the sale too.
But they didn't do that. All the ban says was that you can't use them here. You can have them, you just can't use them, which makes no sense. Like, why even take up that measure? But anyway, they're banning the sale and the possession of bump stocks, so that's good. It's going to provide additional funding for armed school resource officers and mental health services. Now, we talked about this on the last show as well, that is going to allow some teachers and staff to carry firearms. So this is going to be provided they are in the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program, are members of the U.S. military, or former police officers. So that part, yeah, I'm not thrilled about that.
Because before we talked about it, they kind of shot down a proposal that would arm teachers. So I guess it got
most teachers.
Yeah, most teachers, and they were like, nah. So they tried to kind of revise this.
Yeah, the Senate was voting on that, and they were like, no, we're not arming most
teachers. So they tried to revise it, I guess, to present something that was, I guess, a little more plausible. And to me, it's more plausible, but I still don't think it is going to work. I still think it has the same issues we were talking about on Tuesday when it comes to arguing individuals in schools, regardless of whether they're teachers or not. It still spreads to the rest of the staff. The same arguments we were using spreads to the rest of the staff as well, because it was like, and it specifically said, I guess, staff members that teaching is like not their exclusive duty or not their only duty. So if you're just a teacher, you're not eligible. Like, that doesn't make sense. What if you're one of the most? What if you're most capable? What if you're gun adept? What if you're the most gun adept? But because you're only a teacher, and that's your, that's how you operate in your capacity as an educator, and that's it. You don't have any other duties. You're not eligible for that. What if you are really, really good with a gun?
The whole thing stinks to me, though, because, again, if you do have some of these teachers, some of these staff members in the school armed, and you are going to be tasking them with, ensuring the safety of these children, if there is a mass shooter, then logic tells me that they're going to have to be the ones that actually end the situation. Because if you bring cops into the situation, if you bring a SWAT team into the situation, how are they going to know who's the shooter and who's not? How would they know that? How would they know that there's only one shooter instead of 2 or 3 or 4? How would they know that? it's just going to create a chaotic situation.
Actually, it will create not just a chaotic situation,
a deadly situation.
Let's just not even talk about the chaos. Let's talk about logistically what kind of chaos it would create. And I'm not talking about like just logistically as far as how people are moving around in an event of a live action, event, like somebody shooting up a school. But for that to actually work, those people would have to be connected. That's the kind of logistics I'm talking about. Those people would have to be connected by like some sort of earpiece or some sort of communication. Like all the people who have the guns would have to be connected by earpiece, and they would then have to be connected to
law enforcement.
To law enforcement.
Yes.
So we're not just talking about money for training. We're not just talking about money for storage of these weapons. We're not just talking about that. We're talking about money for all the other things that are going to come along with it. The equipment. Well, in my opinion, if this is going forward, it would make sense to have equipment that links all those people who are actually in possession of a firearm, and it would make sense to have equipment that connects them to potential, law enforcement if they have to potentially come in.
I tend to believe it's probably going to be a little bit more sloppy than that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Like me explaining it. Oh, it's so damn simple.
Yeah, yeah. And
I'm only explaining it because they passed it.
Yeah.
I'm only explaining it because that's what's going to be necessary. Yeah. Now, how it plays out in real time. I mean, I don't know if I expect Brenda, the cafeteria lady.
Right.
I just don't know. Like, is again all the I guess the qualifications that they laid out, or anything that would qualify someone to be in this program. I guess I call it the gunslinger program. Like, what are the chances that they're former military? What are the chances that, they're former police officers? What are the chances of that? What are the chances?
I guess if you are, then that's when you can carry the gun.
The problem I have with it now, it sounds like a prison. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're...
Again, we don't know we don't know how it's going to work in practice. Like, we don't know if these teachers, staff members are going to be wearing this on their hip, if it's going to be somewhere locked up. We have no idea. Now, again, it has passed the legislature, so Governor Rick Scott has up to 15 days to decide whether he's going to sign the bill or not. Now, there's some things that they passed that he is not in support of, and arming the teachers was one of them. So, again, we'll see.
But he thinks this is, he thinks this is a decent compromise.
Oh, I believe so.
As far as what I've read, he said.
Yeah, I believe so. Again, he hasn't said whether or not he's going to sign it yet, but it seems like he would. Now, there was one other provision that's inside this bill, and it's considered a red flag law. So in Florida, what it would be like is it would allow a police officer, family member, or community welfare expert to file a sworn request and present evidence before a judge in a court, indicating that somebody is about to commit an act of violence. They're making some threats or something like that, threats of violence. Now, if the people that submit a request for authorities to come in and remove the guns from the situation, remove the guns from that individual, if they make any false statements, then they are liable for criminal penalties. So that's the part where I know some people are looking at it like, well, I don't know about that. Do you really trust the government to behave in the right way on that? Or are they going to just take somebody's rights away when they don't need to be taken away? So, and just like most other laws are not applied equally to everyone too. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I'm afraid of as well. Like, will it be applied equally? There is currently 5 states that have these kind of red flag laws, and that's Connecticut, Washington, Indiana, California, and Oregon. I believe I can't say for sure. I believe it's passed the legislature in Massachusetts, I believe. But there are, I believe, more than a dozen states since what happened in Florida took place that have thought about, you know, instituting these kind of red flags laws as well.
I can see too many. I can see it being like very bogged down. I can see a bottleneck happening as far as people maybe jumping the gun, a knee-jerk reaction, because there's all kinds of threats. Like, they need to be specific about what type of threat. That's what I kind of.
Well, the thing is that you have to provide evidence to the judge. Now, again, what kind of evidence do you need to provide? What I'm saying.
Like, what kind of evidence do they need to provide? What kind of threat? What type of threat? Is it just like, I'm gonna kill you, or man, I'm gonna shoot that place up, man? You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it just seems like it's too vague. Now, of course, obviously, when it's in practice, there's going to be probably some adjustments made. I'm assuming, but I just don't think something like this would go well because you're going to have a lot of kind of false positives.
You may. Again, we might have to look at those particular states that already have these laws in place. I believe one of them, I can't be sure which one, but it's probably Connecticut. I believe they've had these laws in place since 1999. So I would be interested in seeing, you know, what's been happening in these states with these laws. You know, has there been any abuses? You know, like instances where people feel their Second Amendment is being violated. And the fact that those are already on the books, and a lot of people haven't even said that, which is kind of funny. They haven't. Now there's been a lot of panic about it though. Oh, again, and this goes back to conspiracy theorists and saying that Parkland was staged and all these other mass shootings have been staged because the government is just using this as a way to take away your rights, your Second Amendment rights in this kind of case. But again, those 5 states have already had these laws in place, and I haven't seen an effort to, you know, remove those laws from these states. I haven't seen any reports of significant abuses with this law in place. So again, we might have to do some research.
Because typically law-abiding gun owners or responsible gun owners don't go around making threats.
Right.
So that's probably why.
That's probably why, right? Responsible, law-abiding citizens. Anyway, now I did want to get to an interview that took place earlier today on Fox and Friends with the NRA spokeswoman, Dana Loesch. So she was on to comment on what Florida is doing with these gun regulations and to have a response to certain people saying that people connected to the NRA are terrorists. So somewhat towards the end of the segment, Brian Kilmeade asked Dana Loesch a question that I'm not sure that she was prepared for. So we're going to play this clip and then discuss it.
I want to be able to defend my family, and I'm not going to be shamed for it. I'm not going to be shamed for it by the Connecticut governor or anyone else that wants to smear me or anyone as terrorist because we disagree with him, and we have a different way of protecting our families.
But you're not against universal background checks, though, right?
Like the ones that failed in California or the ones that have failed in Colorado. I mean, I do believe that one of the things that we need to do is make sure that states are reporting fully and accurately, which they're not doing, all of their criminal convictions to the National Crime Information Center for NICS to check when someone purchases a firearm. Look, NRA and Wayne LaPierre have come out strong against this, actually longer than I've been able to vote, really, saying that we need to make sure that this system works accurately.
That amuses me so.
Yo, she talks in circles. She uses straw men. She uses straw man arguments and false narratives to paint a picture of the other side so she can create some sort of argument against it, even though that's like she's presenting the other side in a very distorted way. You know what I'm saying? So just to support her point.
She didn't answer the question at all.
Maybe I'm like,
she didn't answer it.
Not only did she not answer it, there was a long little pause in between that question. Because who was that? That Kill Me?
That was Kill Me.
That was Kill Me to answer the question. You know, before it was like, she was just talking and talking, and Kill Me was like, so you support background checks? It was like,
yeah, again, see, I don't think she anticipated getting that question on Fox.
Not from Kill Me.
Not on Fox News Channel, right? But again, one, she didn't answer the question. But of course she wouldn't answer the question because she doesn't want to come right out and say that no, she and the NRA doesn't back universal background checks, because she knows that virtually all Americans do background checks. What she's saying is that, oh, look, we got to fix this NICS system, you know? We got to fix the background check system, and states aren't reporting all the information that needs to be reported.
That's the point. That's the point. The background check process could be better. Like, by citing how bad California and Colorado is with reporting, she's actually making the case for stronger background checks, because that's what it's about. It's not just stronger background checks in and of itself. It's kind of shoring up I guess the process of doing that and making sure we do that correctly. It's unfortunately about, laws have to be written for us to do that. But that's the point. Like, it's funny how she was trying to make a point and actually ended up supporting background checks.
Well, again, see, these people like her, like Dana Lesh, they will come out and say things like, yeah, they support some background check. Now, again, they don't phrase it that way. But if you support NICS, which she says that she does, she supports fixing NICS. She supports getting all the relevant data into the background check system, right? So if you support some background checks, there is no logic that could sustain the argument that you only support some and not all. That's not a logical frame of mind whatsoever. If you support some, then you should support all. By her bringing up California and Colorado, even if those two situations, background checks didn't do anything, right? Whatever situation she's bringing up, right? Even if that didn't happen, are you saying that because of these two incidents that you brought up, that background checks are purposeless?
No, that's what she is saying.
So if she's saying that, then why didn't she say that background checks should be completely wiped off the map? Like, we shouldn't have them at all. Either you're supportive of them or you're not. There is no in between. You should support background checks because it is a way to make sure that people that should not have guns, people that have been convicted of serious crimes and domestic violence charges, this and that, they don't get these weapons. These criminals that all of these people, these gun rights enthusiasts, they always say they shouldn't have weapons. Well, what is a method to preventing them from getting the weapon? Background checks. So that's why you need them at every single gun sale purchase, everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's private, doesn't matter if it's in a retail store. It doesn't matter. If there's a gun purchase, there needs to be a background check that accompanies it.
And maybe she's mad about being called a terrorist, but
she's very upset about that.
Maybe she's called a terrorist because she likes to stoke fear within people, and she likes to put the media on notice. Remember that commercial she did?
Yeah.
She likes to put the media on notice. Your time is running out. Or how they, pay politicians to keep them at bay. I'm like, so maybe she's called a terrorist for good reason. You know what I'm saying? She's like playing this like aggrieved villain. You know what I'm saying? She's playing the role of an aggrieved villain right now. Like, it's her who is being attacked for just wanting to protect her family. Again, a straw man.
Playing a victim.
I was like, this has nothing to do. This has to do with background checks. How does that have anything to do with you protecting how she protects her family?
Her position even looks stupid on Fox News, man. That's hard to do.
Honestly, maybe what happened was I think Kilmeade thought that she was going to give a better answer. I think that's what it was.
I think Kilmeade actually believed that she was in support of, or she was supportive of universal background checks.
That's what I'm saying.
Because she hasn't said that she's not.
That's my point. I think Kilmeade was expecting a better answer. He was expecting her to knock that out of the park.
Right.
But what she ended up doing was making her case, and stating her point, and actually making a case for stricter background checks.
Yes.
Because she cited 2 states where they're not working. Exactly, that's the point. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
Like I said, she came off looking real stupid. I think so. Again, if you support some, then you have to support all. Now, if you don't support some, then let that be your position. Don't say that you support the NICS system. Don't say that you support that, because if you do, then that means that you support background checks. You just sound like an idiot.
No, she is an idiot.
Yeah, she is an idiot. She is an idiot. She has displayed that many times. All right. Okay, so I believe we said last week that in the Senate that they weren't going to be speaking about guns anymore. Gun regulation, that was not on the schedule anymore. What they were going to be talking about is the banking industry.
Yeah, man, they got banks to deregulate. They got markets to potentially crash.
That's correct. So that's what they've been discussing. So in the Senate, they've been talking about banking reform, deregulating some of these hurtful practices, these regulations that have been just bombarding
hurting the banking industry, preventing them from, preventing them from providing customer service.
Yeah. And actually, the way they frame this conversation, it's about community banks.
Yeah,
they want community banks to be able to compete with the big boys. That's the way they're framing this, okay?
But why would we want that? Why would we want that? If community banks tend to center their focus around the community and not operating like those big banks, not using those tactics that big banks use. That's what community banks do. So why would you want community banks to do the same thing?
Well, see,
even a customer of a bank, or why would you want community banks to do the same
it's about
thing?
The restrictions on community banks. See, they believe that the regulations that have been imposed on many banks, see, smaller banks were negatively impacted when they shouldn't have been. See, I guess the government coming after the banking crash, the housing market crash, and we had to bail out the banks. Coming out of that situation in the recession, there were rules put in place, but these rules hit the small banks.
Of course they would.
But they shouldn't have. That's what they're saying. They shouldn't have. So they're trying to take measures now to kind of roll back that process. So this is from The Hill. It says, the proposed bill would decrease the number of banks that are subject to higher oversight from the government to ensure they can weather a financial shock. Under Dodd-Frank, banks with at least $50 billion are subject to additional scrutiny. The proposed bill would increase that threshold to $250 billion, lowering the number of banks subject to the high-level oversight from 40 to about 12.
They're using the same legislative trick they did with the estate tax threshold, where they increased the threshold so less people would be affected by it. So it basically has no teeth.
Right.
So they did the same thing here. You increase the threshold. That means less banks are under the purview of such regulation, or such purview of the government.
Now, again, they're framing this as trying to be helpful to small community banks. Okay. They got to help these community banks, be competitive and thrive in their communities. But under this legislation, it would also help major regional banks like SunTrust, BB&T, Citizens, Fifth Third, M&T, BMO, Financial Corp. All of these are pretty large banks. They're not the absolute largest, but they're pretty large. And it's being referred to, this legislation now is being referred to as the Bank Lobbyist Act. And Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's a Democrat, she has been very loud about her opposition to it. On Twitter, she says, Senate Republicans voted unanimously for the Bank Lobbyist Act, but this bill wouldn't be on the path to becoming law without the support of these Democrats. The Senate just voted to increase the chances your money will be used to bail out big banks again.
Yeah, so it's not just Republicans. It's like about 17. It's like 17 Democrats.
Yeah, man. This is legislation that legitimately might get 70 votes in the Senate. It could get that high, so it will pass like far above like the the amount of votes that are necessary. Also, Senator Warren said, we've been down this road before. Whenever things are going okay in the financial system, the lobbyists flood the halls of Congress and convince politicians to roll back the rules because what could possibly go wrong? And so she's absolutely right about that. So things are going okay now, right? Okay, there's been no recession. You know, it doesn't look like there's a recession on the way, at least right now. It doesn't, right?
But why is that, though?
Because rules and regulations are in place. So because it looks like they've been on their best behavior, they've only been on their best behavior because
the gate's locked.
Yeah, because they've been prohibited from engaging in these risky practices.
Because we got bars on the windows and bolts on the doors. That's why.
So nothing about who's in this industry has changed. Please don't let anybody fool you. These are the same bankers that will crash the economy again.
And even with rules, there's been constant scandals, and we've covered them.
We have,
like with Wells Fargo, with Bank of America. When we kind of did quite a few Equifax stories.
So because, like I said, because they seem to be on their best behavior, because the rules are in place, let's remove those rules and let them flourish, because this is about community banks. But if it was about community banks, why aren't you just talking about the smaller banks? So if these rules and regulations are really hurting these smaller banks because they believe that they believe the bill could help the banks revitalize struggling economies. Now, how they're going to do that alone, I have absolutely no idea how like banks are going to revitalize their particular communities. I have no idea.
Probably talking about, maybe better interest rates. You know what I'm saying? That's probably what they're talking about.
That alone ain't going to do it though.
I know.
You know that? But anyway, again, if they're being hampered by these regulations, okay, I'm willing to say okay and listen to that. I'm willing to say, okay, if you want to kind of ease restrictions on them because they're not going to be the ones that are going to be wrecking the economy. Again, I'm willing to listen, but you're not just including the small banks in this legislation. You're talking about big banks as well. So why would you do that? Why would you do that? Huh? Could it
because
be?
If it was just about the smaller banks.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You would just make it about
a narrow focus. But of course, this is about Wall Street,
because this bill affects mostly big banks.
Come on, man.
Hey. They reserve the right to gamble with our money, Will. And if they win, they get to keep all they get to keep all the winnings.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. If they benefit,
and if we lose,
if they lose, they still get to keep.
And then they get bailed out.
And they get bailed out. So we're responsible for the recovery when they lose. When they win, they get to keep everything.
So you mentioned the Democrats that are supportive of this bill. Some of them are Senator Claire McCaskill, Senator Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, John Tester, and I believe I'm not sure if Joe Donnelly is facing re-election or not, but the others, they are facing re-election. So that brings me to another point, right? So I've read that they may be taking this position because they are at risk of losing their re-election bids in their states. I believe these are states that Trump won, right? Missouri, West Virginia, North Dakota, Montana, Yeah, Trump won these, right? So they may be feeling a little scared about the prospects of them returning to the Senate. So maybe that's why they're taking this position. So that's why, see, that's where you see how corruption plays this part in the political process. Because they're not interested. If this is true, which, come on, you know it's on their minds. If this is true, then that means that what's doing best for the American people is not their primary objective. What's doing what's best for them is they're only interested in being a senator. They're only interested in keeping their job. They could care less about being a public servant. Represent.us, they put out an image about the Democratic senators that are backing this legislation and how much money they have taken from the financial sector. Wouldn't you know it, all of these, all these people are on the list, of course, because they're backing the legislation. Donnelly, over $1 million. Heitkamp, over $1 million. Manchin, about $700,000. McCaskill,
damn,
$1.7 million.
Dang, yo, what? Oh, goodness gracious.
That's what I'm saying, man. Tester, $1.8 million. You think this has anything to do with their position?
And some of those individuals are actually on the banking committee. I mean, you laid it out. You laid it out. Pretty succinctly. There's no coincidence why these Democrats are kind of for this bill. What's the bill called?
Well,
what do you call the bill? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, she's calling it the Bank Lobbyist Act.
Lobbyist Act.
Yeah, I don't even know what the real name of the legislation is. But as you were saying, why should community banks compete with Wall Street banks?
Yeah, why would you want that?
Yeah.
There's an assumption that the Wall Street banks are always have a history of doing good things. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, no, we want the community banks to get in on our shenanigans. Like, why would?
But even that though, even if you allow that, they're trying to make that happen. How? Like, that's the question I got. Like, how does this help them be more competitive with Wall Street banks? Like, with the huge banks?
Not only that, especially if the big banks, some of the big banks, or most of the big banks are going to be sucked up in this. So they're going to have the same rules applied. There's no way they're going to be able to compete.
Right.
Because they already have more capital already. They're not going to be able to compete.
No, they're not. So we know it's not about that. It's not about that at all. We know it's about Wall Street banks. We know that. But they're doing this under the guise of helping the little guy that's being over scrutinized. Okay, yeah, we got a couple more. Okay, so as early as next week, there could be a vote in the Senate on a spending package. Now, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has already said that the bill has many problems, and Pelosi said, this is a quote from Pelosi. She said, "There's suggested language that we could never live with, even if dreamers never existed. So the bill may have problems in other respects, whether it's women's right to choose or defunding Planned Parenthood." So she also said that the challenge is going to be ironing out all of these wrinkles over the next coming days and getting to a place that they could support the spending package. Now the question is, she mentioned dreamers. Okay. Now, why the hell did she mention dreamers when she's talking about this spending package, right? Well, Nancy Pelosi said that she does not believe gun reform or immigration should be addressed in this spending package debate. Now, this is the same Nancy Pelosi that back in early February stood on the floor of the House and spoke for over 8 hours filibustering because she was adamant that the spending bill include something protecting dreamers. She was adamant.
Now she doesn't care. Well, what do you think that is?
Well, she said she didn't say she didn't care. What she said is that on gun reform and on immigration, she's urging Republicans to bring those concerns to the floor in standalone bills.
But see, that's my point. No. That tells me that she doesn't care, because there's no way she could be that dumb. There's no way she could be that dumb to think that Republicans will do that. We're not even there, and we know that to be the case. And she has more experience than us with trying to work with them.
If that was possible, it would have already happened.
Exactly that. Again,
especially on DACA.
Exactly. If that was even like in the pipeline, and if it was in the pipeline, it would be a pretty narrow pipeline. If that was actually there, then they would have, like you said, already done it. But
because they've had 6 months.
She has enough experience to know that Republicans will never do that. That's why I said she doesn't care. This shows she doesn't care. Mm-hmm. Why would she be waiting on Republicans to do that when she can kind of force the issue by trying to get it included in the spending bill?
Because you use the leverage when it presents itself, right? When the opportunity presents itself. Mm-hmm. You know that was the whole reason. It was the single reason why you stood on the floor of the House for 8 hours speaking, because you knew this was the time that we had to do something, because if you let that opportunity go by, there's no way the Republicans would bring it to the floor as a standalone bill. You knew that. So that's why you said you were adamant that it happened right now. But see, we saw something like this coming, because remember, after that, I believe it was the day after that, she said that, oh, well, she's not going to be urging other Democratic members to not back the spending bill. This was just her position. She's not going to be campaigning. You know, she's not going to be putting the bug in, you know, these Democrats' ear to come with her. So let's not support this.
That was a sign that we knew she wasn't going to actually be seriously, championing any issue when it came to immigration.
It was just political theater, like we thought it was. Like, now, the day of, I remember us discussing it and saying, how did you all, feel about this? How did you feel about her standing on the floor and, campaigning and doing what she could to see that these dreamers are protected? And many people were like, well, look, I don't like Nancy Pelosi for a whole host of reasons, but I do like what she did there, And I think that was kind of the feeling that we had as well. But then soon after that, she said, yeah, I'm not gonna use my position and my voice to kind of get people on my side so that we can actually come together as a unit and force them to do something for dreamers. Nah, this is just a personal position. And then a month later, just over a month later, now she's saying no reason to include it in the spending bill. Let's just have the Republicans take care of it in standalone bills. Man, come on, man. So I don't know. That's Nancy Pelosi for you. So we got one more. I believe. Yeah. All right, let me see this. Let's just refresh it. All right. Right there. All right. So, as everyone knows, companies decide what standards are appropriate for their business. Now, for social media companies, they decide what processes they're going to go through to determine what content is allowed and what content is disallowed. So this is no different for a company like YouTube. Whatever they decide is too offensive, too extremist, they're going to pull down. Now, we've heard a lot of concerns about censorship and this and that, but just like any other business, again, they have to decide what's appropriate for their platform.
And it makes sense that, and it makes sense for businesses to seek outside help if kind of their, I guess, business model and what they do from day to day as a business, like, doesn't surround some of the issues they feel they need to tackle within their business. They'll kind of like outsource, certain things. You know what I'm saying? They'll seek expertise from some other organizations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So YouTube is no different. Of course, they have sought outside help on that initiative. So YouTube has enlisted the help of over 100 different groups to participate in the process of content filtering. Now, one group that is involved is the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. And it's that group, the SPLC, it's their involvement that is just inciting rage among conservatives. They are very upset that the SPLC is involved with content filtering on YouTube. Why? Well, they believe that in recent years, the SPLC has been conflating conservative speech with hate speech. That's their gripe. Now, the SPLC, if most people are familiar with them, but what they do is they try to combat racist language, the racist events, and anything that's very offensive. I believe they have cited 954 hate groups in America. They've listed 954. So again, recently conservatives have been upset with them because certain groups have been included on the list, like the Family Research Council and the Center for Immigration Studies. Now, these are two groups that conservatives believe are not hate groups.
Of course they don't. Of course they don't.
Yeah.
Like, whose fault is it that there are certain kind of hateful attitudes and hateful beliefs that are associated with conservatism? Like, conservatives are mad at, they blame the Southern Poverty Law Center for conflating certain beliefs with conservatism. And I'm like, well, actually, conservatives do that themselves. If you are a bigot or a perpetual bigot, and you constantly call yourself X, whatever that group is, however you want to identify, it's you drawing the connection between what you call yourself and the bigotry you display. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your fault entirely. You can't get mad at somebody for calling it out. That's that whole, like, what I call like that bigot aggrievement syndrome, where they express hateful attitudes, hateful beliefs. They express a worldview that is very derogatory towards other people, groups, or whatever. And then when you call them out, they say the highlighting of that bigotry is the real hate.
Yeah, and Fox News' Tucker Carlson, which he's a co-founder of the Daily Caller. He criticized the SPLC as a, quote, wholly discredited hate group.
So wait a second.
So the organization that calls out hate and brings attention to it is now the hate group for doing that.
Well, wouldn't that make Tucker Carlson the same? Like, why
round and round
we go. That's that doggone, like, that
circular logic.
That racist shit circle. Like, you know what I'm saying? That I talked about so much. But
like the Family Research Council is notable because they are anti-LGBT rights. That is a bigoted position.
That's a bigoted position.
You can't get around that. Now, the Center for Immigration Studies, they have many ties to like white nationalists and that kind of message. They have displayed stories from white nationalists. I mean, if you put it out there, somebody's gonna grasp it. Somebody's gonna take it, and if the SPLC sees it, they're gonna say, "Well, hold on, this, look, we got to put them on the list. They're espousing hate. They're espousing bigotry. We're gonna let people know about it," and that's what they do. Now, what's interesting is that it's not only what you would consider right-wing groups that espouse hate that are on these that are on this list of hate groups that the SPLC has listed. there are also groups that are, you know, or like black separation, like
there are
black
if you go to the
separationist groups.
SPLC, if you go to the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, they have black radical groups listed, or organizations listed as hate groups. They do on their website.
Yep. They I don't know if they still do, but I remember they did have the New Black Panthers as a hate group. And I remember, I don't know if this was the reason. I'm sure it's one of the reasons. I remember I went to the New Black Panthers website, and they were referring to white people as crackers. Can't do that. Can't do that. You're probably gonna get on that list. You sound like a hate group. So yeah, it's not
what's
just
funny is, if you think about it, seemingly like just to appear balanced, those other groups tend to have to do less to even get on that group. You know what I'm saying? But again, we'll restate it. There are non-right-wing groups on there. Right. And it specifically, that list is specifically for groups that target people for, or target groups of individuals for how they look, or something that they can't control about themselves, like their sexual orientation or their race or their ethnicity. That's why the Southern Poverty Law Center puts together this list. And if you fit, you know, the traits, you're going to be on that list. You can't get mad at that.
And what's interesting too is that the SPLC never makes this about a left or right thing. They never make it about a Democrat versus a Republican thing. But you see how conservatives are. So what conservatives are in essence saying is that being anti-hate is being a liberal.
Again,
you made that connection.
But see, again, when you kind of they reveal like some, I guess, they reveal some points that they didn't think they were going to reveal by giving an explanation. Yeah, that's just how it is when you are kind of self-conscious about what you believe. You kind of unwittingly will kind of highlight stuff like that.
Now, some of the conservatives have noted that they're upset that a group like Antifa has not been listed by the SPLC as a hate group. Now, yeah, and that's true, because the SPLC has refrained from putting them on a hate group, right? On the list. Now, understand something. Antifa is not really an organization. It's kind of like Black Lives Matter, which is not really an organization. Like, anybody can say they're Antifa. Anybody can say they're with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And another thing about Antifa, if they're a hate group, who do they hate? Are they hating people? Like, are they bigots? Do they hate white people or black people or brown people or Asian people? Like, who do they hate?
They're just anti-fascist.
They're anti-fascist, right? So you're saying they should be on the list because they hate fascism? Seriously? Like, the one thing about it, I think
you're almost saying that, like, you sympathize with fascists.
Exactly.
That's kind of what you're saying.
But a lot of them note that Antifa members are violent, right? Now, that might be true. Like, there's some you know, people that, you know, shout about Antifa. They maybe they're at rallies and maybe they do stoke violence, right? Okay. But see, violence alone isn't going to get you on the list. Like, there's a lot of people out here that are violent. Yeah, that's not going to get you on the list alone. That's a factor.
You have to have certain beliefs and stated points.
Right.
That,
what are you fighting for?
That illustrate your hate for a particular group just because they're there. They're that group.
It has to be able to be defined. Yeah. And, like, Antifa has defined that they're anti-fascist. Again, like, how can you put that on the list of hate groups? It's just a ridiculous position, man. But again, you're not defending your position. You're just saying, why not them too? Yeah, they're being babies.
Yeah. Baby bigots. Or bigot babies, however you want. Whatever order you want to say that.
That quote by Tucker Carlson, though, man. Well, you know what? You're going to call out hate? You're a hate group.
Tucker Carlson is, like, ridiculous, man. I can't watch that Joker.
Nah,
I can't watch him, man, because he has this constant, like, Tucker Carlson has this look on his face like he's, like, on a perpetual toilet. You know what I'm saying? Like he's on the toilet. Like, you know what I'm saying? He just has it like he's on the toilet all the time.
Oh my gosh, man!
He's trying to squeeze a big one out.
Yeah,
like,
I've never thought about that.
Because like his eyes are.
I don't want to
like,
think about that.
Like he's perfected that look.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that. So I'm gonna forget that you even said that because I don't want to think about that.
Like he got the bubble guts. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like he's trying to hold back.
Yeah,
he got the bubble guts.
I feel you, but
no, I'm just trying to keep it in your head.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't even know what you said just now. But yeah, so we have reached the point to where we're gonna take callers. If anybody has a question or a comment about anything that we've talked about today, or maybe something else that is happening that is important to you, you think need to be discussed, please give us a call and we can get you on the air. The number 669-900-6833. We gotta situate this environment real quick. All right, I think it's connected.
Why it is.
All right. Yeah, it should work now. Hold on. Why is that way down there?
No, it's way down there. It didn't look like you could even touch it.
I know. That doesn't. You know what? Let's leave out of here and then come back to it. All right. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
all right.
better.
I think we're all ready.
So.
All right, so let's see. But yeah, if anybody has a question in the chat as well, let's see. Grandma Christine saying she's feeling silent.
What she trying to do is she trying to set it up so she ain't got a call. That's what she's trying to. That's what she's trying to do. I'm feeling silent, so we won't have any expectations. We're trying to play us.
I'm just looking through the chat, see if there's any questions that we missed, because we can't keep a track of everything that you were talking about.
And Will had to refresh the page because the chat kind of froze up. It was for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you know what? That's another thing that we can kind of implore you to do. If you do have a question while we're going through the show, tag us in the question. Tag Let the Madness Begin, because what that does is it highlights it and it's easier for us to notice it, in the chat. So that we can, when we're going back through the chat, we can, bam, it's right in front of our face. Because we just see
everybody.
Yeah, we just see everybody. It's hard to make out what's a question and what's not.
See if a couple of names in here I've never seen before.
Moose Gal says CNBC has a poll which states the midterm could give us a Democratic House and a Republican Senate. Thoughts? My thoughts are that nothing will be accomplished. Nothing will be accomplished for 2 years. I don't think anything will be accomplished for 2 years. You know what? Even with the it really just depends on.
It depends on the makeup.
Yeah, the makeup. If we have a situation kind of like what we have right now, where there's 51 Republicans in Senate and 49 Democrats, it's still going to be hard for the Republicans to get things done. So I don't anticipate a lot will happen, even if they maintain control of the House and Senate. But if the Democrats actually have control of one, one of the houses, the House or the Senate, yeah, I don't see anything getting done for 2 years, at least.
Got nobody in the environment yet, so anybody want to give us a little call? You got something to bring up? I don't see a lot of questions. I do see a lot of chat going on, so. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a definite yes. I mean, obviously there's some intersectionality going on there, and it makes sense because, like, people experience kind of similar things within their own little bubble. Like obviously black women's experience is going to be different than white women's experience, while at the same time white women were kind of relegated towards certain roles by way of white male patriarchy. So yes, there's going to be some things that well, we got a caller, but yeah, there are going to be some things that that they have to kind of fight for, and they're going to fight for things based on their experience, and they can't fight in the same way, let's say, like black women need to, because they're not a part of that experience. So yeah, the feminist movement for the most part did leave black women behind, but
to fight for all women, you have to recognize that all women don't have the same exact fight.
All women don't have the same exact fight, especially if you're talking about, this kind of global racism and white supremacy, and how white women internalize that too. So white women are both kind of both victims and perpetrators at the same time. So I just would not expect white women to kind of take black women under their wing, especially when so many of them were kind of the co-conspirators in white supremacy. So it's just a little bit intersectionality there.
All right, we have a caller. Thank you for joining us for LTMB Live. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, callers. 712 area code. I hear noise.
Maybe they don't hear us. Yeah, I hear noise, but I don't hear no voice.
All right, we're gonna mute them for a little second.
Yeah. Could y'all hear the banging going on in the background?
Yeah,
with that caller?
Somebody. Okay, yeah, I believe it's Snork Y2K. Yeah, I believe it's you because you said that we don't see that you're on the phone. So
we see you now. You did come up in the. So if maybe they can't. Maybe he can't hear us, or they can't hear us. He or she. Maybe they have us on speaker or are waiting to hear something. That's what sometimes people do when they're. So I wonder if the audience can hear the racket going on.
Yeah, let's see it.
So can y'all hear that racket going on in the background?
You said that racket. But it's never about them, the audience hearing, because they're always able to hear us.
So fine. So yeah, they can at least hear us and the person in the background.
All right, we're gonna give them another chance here.
Give them another chance.
All right, caller from area code 712. You're on the air live with LTMB. Are you there?
But now we don't hear anything. Even the racket's gone. Oh well. Oh, we got another caller.
All right,
so it
well,
looks like
we got
we'll
another
move on
caller
to them instead.
All right, caller 830 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, it's me, Taylor from New Braunfels, Texas.
What's going on, Taylor?
Hey, well, I just had to talk about the Texas primary since I live in Texas, and yeah, I did like a lot of campaign volunteering for Derek Crow, who was running for the Texas District 21 district, who was also like endorsed by Our Revolution and the Justice Democrats. But unfortunately he lost where it's now Mary where it's now Mary Wilson and then of course Joseph Kaufner. And
didn't Mary Wilson wasn't she a Bernie supporter?
I mean, that I don't know.
Okay.
I do know that I do know that she seems to also be a progressive, even though even though she's not a Justice Democrat. And I'm not sure if Our Revolution is with her either. Probably not. But I do know that she does support, like, the Bernie Sanders policies, even like what Derek Crow was running on, of like $15 minimum wage, and then of course like not taking any like corporate money, and then of course Medicare for all, and like free college, and like all that stuff. But as for Joseph Kaufner, I mean, he's just pretty much like a Joe Manchin Democrat. Yeah.
What district was that again?
I think you said that was District 21, right?
Yeah, for District 21, because apparently, he supports like the oil companies. He also supports the border wall, and and obviously, he like he doesn't like immigrants, and obviously now I'm just going to be campaigning for Mary Wilson.
Mary Wilson,
just because of really, yeah.
But isn't there going to be a runoff?
Isn't there a runoff, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a runoff, right?
Yeah, and then it'll because that's what it came down to, where because they weren't able to reach that number
50%
of because it just went so close. So I guess
so he still has a chance then.
Till May.
Yeah, he still has a chance then until for May 22nd then.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, Joseph Kaufner, he has, a lot more money because he has, like, the businesses that support him. So, like the oil company and all that. While Mary Wilson, she just wants, like, grassroots, like, people power money. So, I'll have to, I'm going to have to, like, support her, for the hopes that, Joseph Kaufner doesn't win. And, of course, I'm also in that district. So.
I was just about to ask you what district you were in.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on it, and there's, like I said, he still has a shot. It was very close, so May 22nd, maybe there's a different result. But Taylor, thank you as always for calling in, and we have some other calls we're gonna get to, man. So again, thank you, man.
And we'll keep an eye on this Texas.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, now we have area code 319. You're on the air live with LTMB. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mitch, Oline, Iowa.
Mitch,
and
how
I
you
just
doing?
called to something I put in the chat. It didn't really type well. But I felt that Nancy Pelosi's, that night that she spent acting like a filibuster, to me, she was getting primaried for the first time she's ever had to fight for a seat. And I feel that she's trying to seem to be progressive by backing the DACA just to be able to have people basically holding the Dreamers hostage, that she's their last hope. And I feel that no matter what, she's going to sell them out anyway. So.
And that's what we concluded. Watching her again, it had a good look to it. But of course, if you know Nancy Pelosi's history, you have to look at her, with a eyebrow raised. And shortly after that, we were like, okay, see, that's Nancy Pelosi. And now a month later, she's like, hey, this fight doesn't mean anything to me. I was just doing that for political positioning. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to see some information on how Pelosi versus Chaffee is doing. And I don't see any polls on it. Nobody seems to be asking the question. Or Feinstein. What's Feinstein doing?
Oh, Feinstein.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Chaffee.
she's I believe the polls are indicating that she's up. Now, I haven't seen a poll since the meeting that they had, since the what was it, like was it 2 Saturdays ago, I believe, when they failed to endorse Feinstein, and DeLeon actually got the majority of the vote. So I haven't seen any polls since that day. So yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that too, if that helped him out in the polls.
Pelosi has a challenger too, and I haven't seen any national poll results on how she's doing.
No, I haven't either. Not one.
I'd like to see that, because I'm wondering if the DACA Kabuki theater she did was because maybe she is feeling pushback with the challenger suddenly in her own district. His name is Stephen Jaffe, if you get him on the show.
Stephen what?
Stephen Jaffe?
Jaffe? Yeah, Jaffe.
Jaffe, okay.
Jaffe.
Okay. Yeah,
oh, well,
we'll
I'll let you go get somebody else on. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, appreciate the call, man.
All right, we have another caller, 612 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
That's me, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. What's your name?
Matthew is my name. I'm on World.now on the chat.
Okay.
But
what do you got for us?
Yeah, it's nice to hear. I called you guys once before, but I was curious about your opinion, really, on the tariff that Trump set up. I saw that in the headline, and I didn't had the pleasure of hearing you guys speak about it.
Okay. Yeah, we covered that earlier on. Right now, it's up in the air. You know, it looks like it's risky behavior that he got us involved in, because it looks like it could, like, seriously, legitimately impact thousands of jobs all throughout the country, and also it already had the negative impact of the EU saying that we're fighting back and implementing tariffs on American goods. So Trump seems to believe that we're going to win this trade war. You know, Mike mentioned that before. You know, recently he said that he likes trade wars, and that's because he thinks that we can win it.
Well, I think he thinks we can win trade wars because he's forgotten that we do live in a global economy, and he thinks that he must have thought that the United States is the only country that has the power to issue tariffs. Yeah. And like you said, the EU responded with a threat of tariffs of their own. And I think that's the major issue. Like, can there be, like, competing tariffs? Like, to me, that's going to send shockwaves through the economy. And like I said,
global economy.
Yeah. And like I said, okay, if the goal is tariffs, or sorry, if the goal of tariffs is to kind of revitalize United States manufacturing, fine. I think that's the hopes that previous products that come into the United States will now be produced by the United States. Fine. But that kind of infrastructure cannot be set up overnight, is what I kind of said earlier. You can't just set up a manufacturing sector overnight. I think that should take place first before any kind of tariffs. You know what I'm saying? Because there's too many industries that are going to be affected, and too many jobs affected. If there are going to be more jobs on the back end, cool. But you kind of have to set that sector up first before you issue tariffs, because you got to, in the meantime, there's going to be thousands of people without jobs, and there's going to be thousands of businesses that rely on these imports that will be affected too. So it actually might make prices of some things go up.
Oh, no doubt.
Cars, my bad, not might, but it
beer,
will.
Yeah.
And like I said, the EU has already.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
he got shook up. Matthew got shook up right there.
I know a lot of people throughout the country will get shook up on that.
I don't watch the news, so I appreciate your info on the tariff. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I love hearing you guys speak. So.
I appreciate that, Matthew. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think that, like, since we do live in a global economy, it's not you can't really say there's a us versus them and make it like there's no us versus them, since there's businesses,
because it's all of us in the global economy.
Yes, all of us, like, you know what I'm saying? So if you start a trade war, you're going to definitely affect United States-based companies.
I hope he has alliances with people who look nefarious, but I don't know. I'm optimistic for the future. I do think that, but I'm anti-corruption, and there was undisclosed corruption for a long time, and I'm hoping it's coming to the light.
And one thing that we did forget to mention, I think Trump had a buddy, right, in the steel industry that just so happened 2 days before Trump mentioned anything about the tariffs. See, you already know what I'm talking about. He had a buddy that sold off all his stocks and whatnot. So,
but come on, man, he didn't know about it though. Stop. This is Trump, man. He didn't know about that. Come on,
I think there was. I just think there was more corruption previously. I'm not joking. Like, I was so far left you couldn't even see me out there, man. And I'm not. I'm not, because this guy shouldn't have got the job, and he's kind of going after globalists. I get that, but yeah, we have a lot of military spending.
That's funny.
I don't know, but I really hope that he is smart enough to ally with the Russians and Chinese and the China thing that I'm hearing on the whispers in the ether. I don't like the anti-China stuff. But my brother's a former Marine, and he was unscared. He's like, "How are they going to get here? Paddle? Like, they got a paddle boat for China." But yeah, I've always been concerned about that many people. But I'm hoping India will kind of check them a little bit, because they're pretty woke over there in India. But
yeah,
I think the times are fascinating, and those tariffs kind of crack me up from how kind of ridiculously ballsy the guy is. But I understand people hate him, and I don't back the man as a person. I don't like the grabbing or the crazy, insane racism that isn't a real thing. And I'm sorry for even saying like that, looking like I do, but it shouldn't be a thing, I guess. But thank you for the platform, and I love you guys, and it was nice to hear you.
Well, we thank you for your support, Matthew, and watching our show.
Yeah, and thank you for calling in, man, and you know, letting your voice be heard, giving something to the channel.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All
right, man. Have a good weekend, man.
Yeah, you too.
I'm offended, Mike. I'm offended, man. You said that, you intimated that Trump told his buddy to sell off his steel, man. How could you do such a thing, man? You know Trump is not in the swamp.
I know, man. I'm sorry.
He's kicking people out the swamp.
I know, man.
He's de-swamping.
I wasn't thinking before I said that. De-swamping.
He's de-swamping, man.
No, see now somebody gonna have somebody gonna come out with a product called de-swamping. Don't let Trump hear it. Don't let Trump hear it.
I see the possibility.
You know what I'm saying?
De-swamping. Just spray this. Apply this lotion 2 times a day.
Take 2 drops of this de-swamper tincture.
Seems to be there's a disagreement in the chat about DeLeon in California, whether he's a progressive or not.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm not gonna enter this argument because I don't think I know enough about him.
Yeah, I don't either. I
don't know enough about him to say one way or the other. I believe from what I've seen, I feel confident that he's better than Feinstein. I think I can confidently say that. But is he a progressive or not? Or is he just acting like one? I'm not sure.
Traquido says that they would call in, but they're not in I guess, adequate health.
Oh, okay.
That person has been in the chat pretty heavy this whole live show, but that's one potential caller that we would have had.
Yeah.
But, oh well. See a lot of people talking about their rent going up, the cost of living. Yeah,
that always happens. But you know what doesn't go up?
Pay.
Yep, can't get a living wage. I mean, we've said it many times, man. If average pay increased with productivity and inflation, we'd be seeing a minimum wage somewhere in the 20s.
30s, actually. Probably 30. And everybody, and again, like, I think the talk, it needs to go beyond minimum wage too, because most people aren't making what they deserve. You know what I'm saying? It should have kind of apply across the board, not just minimum wage. I think the conversation goes there because that's the bottom, and so once you raise the bottom, everybody else should be able to come up too. You know what I'm saying? So I think the conversation is always going to address the very bottom. So I don't think it's because everyone else is ignored. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. I'm not ignoring everybody else because everybody kind of get shafted.
The logic again, like the logic behind like saying that businesses are not able to support, you know, a high minimum wage, I don't believe there's logic to that, because when you put money in the pockets of people that spend, which are poor people and middle class people, when you put money in their pockets, extra money, they spend it, they go out. So if it affects one business, you know, like, oh my gosh, this business, now I gotta pay all my workers this high minimum wage. Like, you aren't the only one. Everybody else is going to be doing it as well.
See,
so
that's the thing.
You're
like,
going to reap the benefits.
They're looking at
like more spending.
They're looking at one half of it. They're looking at one side of it. You know what I'm saying? They all they see is a particular business as a singular entity, as if it's not connected to the economy.
Yeah, the whole community.
But if all the businesses in that county or that state are paying people a higher wage, that means those businesses will benefit, because those people who get that money, get that higher wage, will then spend that money in their community, which that means the businesses can support the wage because they'll be benefiting from the money that gets spent. So it's
more sales, right?
It's basically,
sales would obviously go up.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have to kind of broaden the topic beyond this one business or this business not being able to survive. There may be some that won't. You just don't know. I don't think people's shopping habits, buying habits, purchasing habits are going to change because they make more money. They'll shop at the same places, probably actually shop at more places. There actually may be more businesses that can open because they'll spend the money they already spend, maybe more, at places that they already shop at, and then they may go somewhere else. They may add places to their purchasing habits. So it actually may cause businesses to get more revenue or open up more businesses. So
what might be a potential outcome to that as well? They might actually be able to support community businesses instead of these massive chain stores that show up like Walmart. That puts community businesses out of business.
That's funny that you say that, because we were talking about bank deregulation and what they are saying, what our representatives are saying, well, the ones that support it, is that it's to kind of help community banks out. I wonder, why don't they have the same perspective for things like raising the minimum?
Businesses.
Yeah, I'm saying, because that would help community businesses, right?
It would.
Small guy.
Help the small guy. Because it ain't about that. They're going to frame it like that, but it's just a guise, man. It's just a ploy so that they can do more and more for the big boys, the big players, man. Wall Street, big business. That's all they care about, because ultimately, who's funding their campaigns? All right, so we got another caller. This is gonna be our last caller. Area code 240. You're on the air live with LTMB. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Jeremiah. Area code from Maryland, but I actually live in Ithaca, New York.
Okay.
What
do you got for us?
Actually tuned in about 5 minutes ago or something. But, so I'm working on affordable housing down in Ithaca, New York. I build like these little tiny houses, and it's an interesting place to be right now because, you know, I want to support union or labor work, but, you know, the average union worker will cost about $60 to $80. Right now we pay living wage, which is about $26, like starting for a carpenter to come in. And we're small, you know, there's about 15 people. And so, you know, it really matters, like every few $100s to, let's say, someone with lower income trying to buy a house. So I guess it's affordable housing is very strange because we could build these houses for, say, $100,000, which is pretty good for a new build. But what happens is everybody needs a mortgage. So when you need a mortgage, they'll dictate that you have to put in a septic. You can't use composting toilets. You have to have like 3 bedrooms because, you know, obviously that makes the property more valuable. So it's really, you know, I guess the question I'm proposing is like, how do you build houses without a mortgage? Like, you know, when did it become that's the only way to get a house? You know, a house isn't like a car. A house isn't like anything else you would really buy, right? Like, people need it to live. So what you end up seeing happening right now with different wealth disparities is that everybody here, or I should say everybody, a few wealthy people in this town of like 40,000 have literally bought most of the housing stock and turned it to renting for college students because Ithaca College and Cornell are here. So it's really, you know, it's really fascinating. You know, you know, I'm about 30 years old, and you know, there's just no way. Like, houses are like $300,000 around here. There's nothing around here. It's like, it's crazy expensive. And you know, we build at a rate of you know, and this is for the United States, $100,000 a bedroom. That's how you can basically price a new constructed house if you were to go out. 2 bedrooms, 200,000, 3 bedrooms, 300,000. It works like that. And at that price, I mean, it's, you know, I don't know, like, you know, it's a big problem. Affordable housing is like no joke when you're talking about $100,000 a bedroom. So it's just interesting. Like, you know, I don't live in a city. I don't know if you guys live in a city. Are you out of the city or are you more suburban?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're both more of like about 10 miles, but both about 10 miles outside of the capital city of South Carolina. So, yeah, but I noticed, it's funny that you mentioned the renting of houses to college students because that's Columbia is a college town. The state university, USC, University of South Carolina, has about 25,000 students, and there's so much new real estate being built downtown and surrounding downtown area of nothing but these very expensive lofts and little apartment complexes specifically designed for college students. And like you said, the houses in the surrounding area of the city we live in are only mainly up for rent. And so I'm kind of noticing the same things that you are. And If you go on any real estate site and look, just it doesn't matter. You can go on Zillow, you go on Realtor, whatever site, and look at any house and look at the price, and it'll show you like how much the value has increased over a period of time. So even when the houses are built, like you said, there's a certain price, and the price of that house, most likely it'll continue to go up. So it's almost like if you don't buy a house when it gets built, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna definitely be paying more for it, because depending on what area you live in, the price is gonna automatically go up, or the value of the house is gonna automatically go up.
And like he was saying too, with the number of bedrooms of the houses, they're all, you know, I guess they have the resale value in mind, so they're only gonna build a certain type of house.
Well, but now you do see, but I do see a lot of this though. I'm pretty sure Jeremiah sees this too. Is you see these little I don't know. I don't know I forgot what they call them, like starter homes. You see, I see a lot of that where like the property is very small. It has like a very one drive car, like a spot for 1 or 2 cars. It's like these starter homes on these small plots of land,
like patio homes,
like pretty much patio homes.
Yeah.
And you like, I've been like seeing them pop up around here like crazy over the past 10 years, where I didn't see that before.
Yeah, those are the ones that don't really have like a backyard. They may have like a little patch of grass or something like that.
I think that is a product of I guess they're trying to like make, I guess, home ownership seemingly like realistic for people who can't afford those homes on like.
But even those are
I know
kind of expensive.
Even those are kind of expensive too. I think that those houses started becoming built as a response to that, the housing market that Jeremiah was talking about. But like I said, I've seen those prices and I'm like, God dog, that's a lot for that.
I'm saying,
I'm like, I'm not paying that much for that little
and
bit.
They aren't that big. Yeah.
I can't even put a basketball goal in it.
Exactly.
I'm like, nah.
Well,
but you said
and just on a quick note on that, you know, because I work for an architecture firm, and we do INHS houses, which are it's like a neighborhood housing. And what ends up happening with those are houses that cost about, like I say, like $300,000 to build, and then we sell them for $140,000. So most of that money comes from grants to build those as sort of a model on how to do it, but it's not sustainable. I mean, if you're relying on grants at a tune of $200,000 for every house that you build in a city as affordable, you understand? Like, so real quick, because I know I'm kind of talking a lot here, but the model, you're right. Like, so what you end up seeing, because this has been in the last 10 years, is developers, a few wealthy people buy homes, divide them into, you know, bedrooms that they can get $1,000 or $1,200 a month from a student. So what ends up happening is they're making $5,000 a month on a mortgage that's like $1,200 for them. So we have to start looking at housing as beyond that, because that makes sense. Any reasonably wealthy person would do that. You and I would do that, right? I mean, we'd buy a property, divide it up. I mean, we could literally buy 2 more houses off the rent and have mortgages. Right. You understand the scalability of that, and that's what we're seeing now. The danger of that is the idea of community, being local, identifying with your neighbor, you know, these things. And one last note, because I used to live in a commune about 5 years ago in a smaller town about 8 miles outside of Ithaca. And, you know, this is a wealthier family from like 100 years ago who just, you know, they have a landscaping business. They have about 10 houses. They rent it to college kids. All the family lives there. But one of the sons recently bought most of the houses in the small town because they had all been converted into renters. And he had the money to do that. So what he did is buy those houses and immediately turn them to rent to own. You know, and I just think that's genius, because that's saying that renter is going to own that property with his rent. It gives him a reason to stay in the community. I mean, and that's just overnight. He did this in like a year, just making purchasing offers. And, you know, this is a smaller town where these houses were like 30, $30,000, $40,000. You know, they're pretty run down. So he could do that on a smaller scale of not being super wealthy. But the renters or the property owners for that were obviously renting it out for, you know, $400, $500 a bedroom. I mean, they couldn't get crazy amounts of money out there, but they were, you know, making insane amount of money on that. I mean, that's a mortgage payment times 2 on a $30,000 property. So I just say that because, you know, you guys have listeners, and I just think it's important that people of means need to try and buy back their property in their community and turn it to rent to own.
Right.
And I think as a starting point to solve this growing problem, that's, you know, it's got to be less profit and more about the neighbors who own property right now and not being so seduced with a buyout. I mean, you know, they're giving up so much. They don't understand. I mean, 10 years, I'm telling you, it's only been 10 years that we've really seen this kind of like property, like consolidation with a few people that like then make everybody a renter with like, you know, not really an ability to buy it. Because like I say, once you buy a property for $300,000, but you're making like, you know, $100,000 a year off of it, nobody's going to make an offer to that person at market rate for that house. He'll never sell it. These people are never going to sell that house. Like, that's my point. Like,
yeah, you're right.
It's going to be super hard to rebuild the community that we've already lost now in this kind of nobody owns a house except, I don't know who owns a house. The people who are like maybe 50, 60 years old who, you know, started paying and own the house for a few years now. So people need to value property and start thinking about like, you know, how to get out from renting. I don't know if you guys own or know much what I'm talking about here, but I've only ever rented. And in the last decade, I've probably spent $150,000 on rent, you know. And that shit can bite. It can bite. It's like, yeah, that's a lot of money to go through you and shit. And
exactly, because when you get out of it, you have nothing to show for it.
So pretty much,
absolutely like, nothing.
what pretty much what you're talking about, it boils down to the mindset of those who invest in the community. And if there's a lot of investors present that only want to make renters out of the people that live there, then yeah, that's going to definitely thwart a lot of home ownership. But if you have investors that are seeking to build a community, that's going to have a lot different consequence. So I don't know how, like you said, how do we get back these properties? And that is the question of the day. Might be the question of the that might be the question of the century.
To try and make less money is
that's the question of not the day. That's the question of the century right there.
Yeah. But anyways, I'll let you guys go. You know, I'm a patron. I try to donate when I catch a show, like as much as I can. But yeah, thanks a lot for what you guys do, and talk to you guys later.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for calling in and for being a patron.
I know, man. You over here schooling everybody, boy.
And gave us something to talk about that, we haven't. So, we appreciate that. We did have a question in the chat that was asking where Jeremiah was from, and that's Ithaca, New York. But, yeah, he brought up, like I said, he brought up something that's obviously something very important to talk about. I boil it all down to like what you say, you talk about capitalism. It comes down to things that we see, like we just saw a few months ago with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, right? Things like that, measures like that are only meant to increase that income inequality gap. It just keeps increasing. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So when people in Ithaca, New York are spending money on all these properties and all they're doing is turning them into rental homes, of course, like Jeremiah said, they're not going to give them up because they're renting them out for so much money. That's a gravy train coming in every single month. It's a college town. People are going to need a place to stay. And there's no way they're going to get that.
And depending on what kind of how the college offers scholarships and recruits out of the state, some of that money is very here today and gone tomorrow. Because a lot of these students here are from out of state.
No doubt, no doubt.
They're from out of state, so they come, rent the properties, and then leave. A lot of them don't even stay here.
That's right. But there's always going to be somebody else to fill that spot.
But really, essentially, they're not going. They're definitely as soon as they graduate, most of them go back to their home state and contribute to the economy there.
And then too, I mean, I'm sure they have dreams of owning a house at some point too. So especially if they're not from there, they will leave. But even if they are from there, maybe they move to a different area. Maybe they try to get a house somewhere else or something.
But you mentioned how the practice, the creating all these rental properties, creates the gap between rich and poor. And I guarantee you, when you ask any of these, real estate investors, what's their purpose? I guarantee you, straightforward, they will not say, and they probably are actually not even thinking it. They're not thinking about, the gap between rich and poor.
Hell no.
They're not even thinking about that.
Think about their own situation.
It doesn't even have to be anything they're getting into nefariously.
Oh, no. All they're doing is trying to make more money. They're just
trying to make more money. That's just the consequence.
I don't begrudge them for trying to make more money.
That's what I'm saying.
Because the system allows it.
That's just the consequence of how they choose to practice real estate.
Right.
That's the consequence, regardless of whether they're doing it purposefully or not.
We don't have a problem with with the practice of owning a home to rent it out. People do that. It's just that, what Jeremiah was saying, is that it's so pervasive. It's who is going to actually live in the community and own the homes? It's going to become just something that's not regular anymore. You're just going to have these owners that may not live in the community at all. They may come from out of state, but they just have these houses because they see a gravy train situation. So the only thing that can be done to combat that is shrink that income inequality gap. And it's not through measures like the income or the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. No, that's not going to get it done. You actually have to put more money in the hands of the spenders, the people that are the people that are in the service industry, the workers, not the people at the top, not the entrepreneurs. No, the people that are working for those bosses. They need more money to live. I've said so many times before, I don't have a problem with capitalism per se. If you want to make all the money that you want to, all the money you can, you're very innovative, you're hardworking, you have a plan, you have a purpose, whatever. I could care less how much money you make. What I care about is that the lowest people on that totem pole are not able to afford insurance, insurance, clothing, food, shelter.
Walmart.
Exactly.
Walmart encourages its employees to apply for SNAP benefits. Ain't that some shit?
Rather than us paying you, go ahead and get some money from the government.
They actually advise. They actually, say, hey, you can apply for SNAP. I'm like, wow, that's a slap in the face.
Well, hey, I mean, well, look, think about it. It makes all the sense in the world. They want their employees to get money from the government, just like they take money from the government.
What? Oh, so they're looking out for their employees.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is how you work the system.
Y'all can't work it like us.
No,
but
we get a rebate. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We get a rebate, because we earn so much. Get out of here, man.
Well,
all right.
Looks like that's going to be our show for tonight.
Yeah. Thank you to all of our callers man.
Again, man.
Yeah.
Y'all keep them coming, man.
Exactly.
Y'all don't never disappoint.
And
I don't think I've ever had, we've had a show where we've had callers where it was,
disappointment. Yeah.
Disappointment.
That last question Jeremiah brought up, I'm thankful that he did, because that's something that we've talked about. Income inequality. We've talked about, a living wage and, capitalism, but not in that way, not to where it extended out to areas where people are just buying up properties just to rent them out. And that leaves nobody in the community that's going to, be able to own homes that they live in. So, man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so thank you for everybody that watched our program tonight. Everybody that was active in the chat, everybody that called in. Special shout out to all of our patrons that help us out. Looks like we are on our way to some additional updates, because what we want to do is be able to multi-stream, be able to stream to Facebook and to YouTube through software. Like right now we have to use 2 computers, and the stream on Facebook doesn't really come in that well. We're still gonna cut off the stream on Facebook after a little while.
Well, yeah, cause the stream on Facebook, but that will allow us to set up a stream on another
on another platform. Yeah, so maybe we could, whatever, maybe Periscope, maybe something else. We looked at Vimeo Live.
No.
Oh my gosh.
You must be crazy.
First of all, I didn't even know that you could broadcast live on Vimeo.
I knew you could broadcast live, but I did not know
the cost. The cost is simply outrageous. If you want to broadcast live on Vimeo, first, it's not free. Okay, so it's $65 a month, but you have to pay it at one time. You have to pay the annual cost. Okay, so $65 a month. If you don't want to pay that discounted rate because you're paying the annual cost, then there is a month-to-month plan, but that month-to-month plan will cost you $135.
So basically, trying to you know how companies do. It's like, hey, if you pay a lump sum, it's gonna be cheaper. You know what I'm saying?
That's over double.
It's over double.
It's over double.
That's crazy. But even if you do a month to month, like, first of all, I don't like to pay for something like that in a lump sum, because
you haven't tested it out.
I haven't tested it out, and I'm not sure what kind of service I'm gonna get. I gotta pay that lump sum. They can lag off on the service for a year. They already got their money. They already got their money.
Oh, and then an additional I guess factor of this, you're only able to stream 10 hours per month.
10 hours not per day. You gotta pay to stream maybe for that's like not, you can't even do an hour a day.
You can't. No, I mean, we do probably at least 8 shows
you have to do
every month. That's clearly above 10 hours. So then you would have to go to the next.
You could only stream for 20 minutes a day.
The next tier. What did I tell you? I don't even.
It was
$165 a month. $155.
Like, what are you getting with that?
I don't know, man.
What are you getting? I'm telling. I better get like premium treatment. Like, you better put me on some sort of recommended shows, recommended videos, listing or somewhere on your website. Man, you better send me boxes of cookies every month.
The only pull to that would have to be that
customer service. Get the call.
Forget customer service. The only pull to that has to be your marketability. That your profitability. That would have to be it. If you're paying that much, you would have to be seeing a net gain in terms of the financial aspect, and that would be related to how they market you.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I say that has to be part of the package. Because if you have to pay that much, what are you paying for? Are you paying for just the stream? There has to be more to it, seeing as there are other platforms that allow you to do it for free, like YouTube, Facebook, or whatever. So if there's other platforms that do it for free, them applying a cost to it must mean there's some sort of added benefit. You gonna give me a courtesy call every morning, say how you doing, Michael?
Because that's some premium. That's a premium price.
I better get that. I better get a wake up. I better get a wake up call.
You want like a 5-star hotel,
room service, pretty much. I want you wake me up in the morning, say how you doing, give me a motivational speech, and then at night, give me a bedtime story.
No. We need at least weekly meetings on how we increase our reach.
Yeah, exactly.
We need some market,
like I said,
meetings,
customer service,
whatever, man. But anyway, like I said, I think in the coming weeks, because right now we're using the software, using OBS, and OBS is pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty user. Well, let me see. Is it user friendly? once you know how to use it, it's user friendly.
Yeah. Marsha's in my head because I was thinking Girl Scout cookies, but go ahead.
But yeah, it's cool right now, but definitely there's other software out there that would be much better for streaming live. So that's what we hope to get into in the next coming weeks. Maybe 2 months or so, something like that. So that's what we have our eyes on. Like I said, we always want to look at ways to improve the stream and help bring new audience in. We're trying that, and we're thankful for everybody's efforts that tries to get more people involved in the audience too, whether you're talking about us, you're sharing our videos, if you're on Facebook, you're commenting and sharing our posts on Facebook as well. It's been a grind, it's been a struggle, because each platform has changed in different ways, and Facebook, again, like back in 2016, and even for the first few months of 2017, we still had a pretty large reach. On Facebook, we have about 69,000 people that follow the page, and it was not really a problem for our posts to get out there, especially of the people that already follow the page. But now it's just a chore. It's a task just to reach even like 1% of them. And
yeah, I know.
It's got to be something that's Facebook's doing. Like, we even tried to promote some posts, to pay for advertising, and like that, it doesn't get either. It never gets approved or it gets declined, and it's just like I said, it's been a grind. So we're trying to come up with different ways, to increase this reach, because there's just really no reason that we have such a following on Facebook, but we can't actually reach them. It's kind of crazy. And really the same things on YouTube as well. We have over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, but can't reach them as well, so something's going on. So we're just gonna keep working it, trying to be innovative, and just trying to do what we can, to make sure that we can get out there, get our message out there, and get more people to watch the show. So like I said, we thank you for all you do. We're gonna get going, get on Facebook for a little bit while,
yeah.
And do LTMB after dark. But we hope everybody has a good weekend.
Oh, that's right, that weekend coming up. So we got 5 days.
Weekend? That's what
it's
you
the
do.
Weekend, baby. That's the big DM.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, and this weekend too, depending on where you live, it's gonna be the beginning of daylight savings time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so the light is gonna come back, so it's not gonna be so dark at night anymore. So that'll be a good thing, because I can't stand when it ends, man. It gets dark at like 5:30.
Yeah. It's so depressing.
Yeah, it is,
because
man.
like there was a time where it was like I would have to work, like go to work really early and then get off really late. It'll be dark when I'm going to work, when I get to work, and it'll be dark when I leave. Look how depressing that is. My God.
Yeah. So we'll have a few months of some good light or whatever like that, and then hopefully the heat will come back a little bit. Like, I feel kind of ridiculous calling for heat here, because when it gets hot, it gets extra hot.
Yeah, I know.
But at least
it's
for
that
like
moisture. It's that moisture.
But like, at least for like the first part of the year, like when it starts getting hot, end of March, April, it's not too hot. But then like May hits.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, give me some cold.
Yeah, no, I can't take this.
But anyway, we're gonna get out of here, and thank you for everything you do for us. Warren Fry says, great show, great chat, girl, awesome callers. We agree, very awesome callers. Tracito Thanks for that stream, guys. I don't think we have seen Tricito in the chat before.
That's why I mentioned. I said Tricito.
Yeah. So thank you very much for being here, Tricito. Like I said, I don't think we've seen you before, but we are glad that you are here, and we hope that you come back on Tuesday and Thursday. So
we go on Facebook like now.
Yeah, it'll be like 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It'll be like 5 minutes, and we'll start the stream on Facebook for about 15, 20, 30 minutes, something like that. So, all right, we are out. Everybody have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.